Hello, everyone. It's Eric, and I'm here with
Justin. It's day 2 of OpTech. Multifamily Weekend Update has been covering stuff. We are the weekday update. The last few days, we've been featuring some of our friends and partners, and we have some folks from MRI here.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So I'm Terry Keller, CTO at MRI Software.
And I'm Carla Henson, Vice President of Solution and Innovation at MRI Software.
Oh my gosh, we got some heavy hitters here. This is kind of nice, and for anyone watching right now, we were able to sequester an entire empty room while everyone's getting ready for all happy hours and doing all the
other things.
all the things that you do towards the end of a conference, right? Switching your shoes out.
Yeah, it's a full schedule at OpTech, and I know that y'all travel globally, all kinds of conferences in the real estate industry, but we have two first timers to OpTech.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
It's been very exciting.
Yeah. So tell us sort of what have you seen? What are you curious about? I mean, you can't see everything in one kind of conference, but what are you guys noticing?
Start with you.
Well, I love the No FOMO stage because that was a way for people to come in and give quick hits on what they've announced this year, a lot of the different vendors. So I really enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did that together.
We
We've been
did?
calling ourselves a dynamic duo this week.
Yeah.
But no, the No FOMO was actually really, really fun because you take what was 3 days of our conference and try to boil that down into a 15-minute segment, which I think we did pretty good at.
Yeah.
But the other thing I really like about this conference is, just walking around talking to folks is the focus has been on AI, but also what I was actually happy to hear was the focus that people have had on, governance of AI and, how do we protect privacy? What about regulatory compliance? So that has actually been kind of refreshing to hear people talking about that here, rather than just AI, go use it.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to follow up with that, right? So, AI being the hot topic, we're now a few years into, mass AI adoption, if you will. But tell me, Terry, what are some things that you want, property management companies to know when implementing AI?
Yeah, a couple of things. So, and obviously we are doing this within our, company as well. And a couple of things there is, number one, don't be afraid of it. Just go experiment. We began our journey with AI a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And that is twofold. Number one, it's internal. So how are we using AI to, we call ourselves Pride members, right? Within our organization, but how do we make the Pride more productive? But we're starting to change that. And it's not just about productivity. It's also about how do you unlock human creativity. I was actually in a meeting earlier today with our HR folks back in the office. And we brought in Microsoft, we brought in Workday, we brought in a couple of folks to just talk about, how are they unlocking creativity within their organizations? So we're doing the same at MRI, but we're also looking at how do we do that within our software? How do we, bring offerings to bear for our clients to also unlock their potential? And it starts easy. You start with how do I start streamlining some, activities? How do I start, removing a lot of the repetitive tasks? But we're quickly moving into agentic AI where, we're releasing stuff that is now thinking and performing action on your behalf. So it's a exciting new world, but I do think, again, you always have to think about why are you doing this? How are you doing this? How are you protecting, the integrity of that data? And that will always be key.
I think it's interesting because you said the word adoption, and I keep seeing a lot of charts that everybody's excited and happy and interested in AI, but the adoption rates aren't quite there yet. And I think it's just because when it first came out, everybody thought it was going to do everything, right? Like you're way up here with your expectations.
We all grew up with the Jetsons,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And I was ready,
Yeah.
but then
Is this podcast AI? Are we real?
Are we real?
Who knows?
But then you kind of get that reality to set in. You
Yeah.
kind of go down what I call the trough of despair, right? Like the reality sets in the work that has to happen. And what I think has been really interesting about the conversations is people are understanding now, all right, I have to understand my data. I need to know what data I have. And then also, I think 2025 is the year of the prompts, right? Because when we first started asking questions, well, the answers weren't right. We didn't know how to ask the questions. So there's been a lot of training around that. I think I've spoken on AI at several conferences this year, and each one's a slightly different audience with where they are. But from being kind of afraid to, oh yeah, we're already rolling out a strategy. But still, that adoption part in there has been interesting. I think people just don't quite know. They know it can do a lot, just not quite sure what it can do for them yet. So that's what we're trying to help with.
I think, I don't know the statistic. It's like 70%, I think I read that people are using generative AI as a replacement for their search engine, right? It's just become
Yeah.
my Google,
Yeah.
or the thing that creates email. But what's really interesting, and one of the things that we're doing within MRI is, how do we start educating people to start thinking about the creative things that it can do, right? Unlocking human potential is the true, kind of promise of AI, not just reducing, work.
Mhm.
So as we start to think creatively about how do we execute our jobs differently with AI, and how does that companionship, that AI companion help me accomplish that, I think is going to be key.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said the creativity, and we also talked about conversation, because I think that's how people learn, right? There's a lot of
Mhm.
conversation
Hmm.
happening at OpTech. That's people discussing things, but that's also the conversation is part of the tool, right? Like that's
Right.
what you guys are
Yes.
working on and
Yes.
how to use it. You want to talk a little more about that?
Yeah, I think I mean, the conversation being part of the tool. I mean, what's happened, right, is people can now ask questions who don't know SQL. They don't know every single database and the thousands of tables that are in them and everything else. So it's a
They
big
don't know how to
r-
code, but now they
right.
can build products.
Exactly, right? So it's a bit of democratization there that I think has been really powerful for everyone. Um, but I also think just like you learn to talk to people or relearn after COVID how to talk to people,
Hmm.
you have to learn how to talk to AI
Yeah.
to get there,
Mm.
to do code, right? To build code and
Yeah.
things like that. So I think the conversational aspect of it is something that now that people are learning it, it's just going to take off more and more. There'll be more adoption. I think the other thing that I've seen is at first we were all very trusting of AI. So we'd ask a question and get that back. And there were some mishaps there. And there's the whole idea of hallucination and things, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we've put in place is that we show the SQL statement of where the data came from, right? That's just to show you still can understand where the data is coming from, right? So
Right.
now you know if the prompt that you entered actually return and search for the results the
Right.
way you were expecting, at least. Yeah.
That's really cool. I
I
mean,
think
we were just talking about that kind
no,
of this morning, kind of the understanding what's behind the AI, kind of likening it to like, calculator and understanding the kind of the math behind it, like
Yeah.
being able to
Trans
do it fast, but then still being able to,
Transparency and
yeah,
auditability.
yeah,
Those are
no,
Yes.
two key factors.
no. It makes everything accountable, right? I mean, from the marketing perspective, I always want to tell a story with data, but oftentimes I have to talk to the data team. The data team says to me, "Hey, what data do you want?" And I say, "Well, what interesting data do you have?" And it just becomes this cycle back and
Yes.
mhm,
forth.
Yes.
Meanwhile, now marketing teams can unlock data and talk to it. They can ask questions from the data that exists. And then, what are some anomalies inside of this data that did not exist the prior years, right? What are some things that are changing year over year, quarter over quarter that might be interesting data for our customers, right? These are the three main pain points that,
And that's where AI gets really cool, right? So when you have, AI working on your data, looking at the trends, looking for those anomalies, and rising that to the surface, you can start to actually take some pretty creative and actions on what's coming out of there. You can get ahead of the game because this is trending in a particular way. You can do that stuff today, and there are people who are out there doing that stuff today. I think this just starts to unlock a lot more of that potential faster.
yeah. Right.
I have some more questions.
Okay.
So, Terry, before you were talking about, I believe you were talking about cross pollination with existing partners, Workday, other,
Yeah,
HR
yeah.
companies. Are you taking some of that knowledge and then internalizing it and then potentially giving that as a product to your customers?
So we're doing,
Or at least taking the learnings and bringing
yeah,
them to
yeah.
your
I think
customers?
probably a
Yeah.
little bit of both. So, from again, we think about AI use cases within our organization, and then what are we going to do with the products and our partners, et cetera, right?
Sure.
So within our organization, we actually on both sides of the house, we are looking at, so in the product it's Ask Agora. So Ask Agora is our kind of generative AI. That's the companion that we're building within the product. That is going to be an orchestrator that will connect to many, 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 many agents. So from a product perspective, she's building agents within the product that we will plug in there. partners are building agents that will plug in there. So I think the answer is yes. So Ask Agora being that centralized hub, but many agents that it works with. And then based on context and where you are within the product or what question you asked, it will know which agents to go to. We're doing the same thing inside of the organization. One of the reasons that we had Microsoft and Workday and Culture Amp, in this panel was we can build all of these things ourselves, or we can build that framework in which we can start plugging in. Why would I remake what, Workday does as an example? They have a budget, many, many times bigger than most people's, right? But they have a budget for building and doing the R&D on this. I just want to take advantage of that. So I'll have my orchestrator just plug into that agent. And I think, we're looking at it from both. There's things that we can build because we're the experts at building that. And then there's things that we can just take advantage of because somebody else.
And that's the
created it.
advantage of working with a partner like MRI. Like, when you have MRI, on your team, so to speak,
Yeah.
you're a property management company, you can unlock all of that.
Yeah. And I think, MRI for, 5 decades now has it been built on the premise of open and connected ecosystem, right? Built on freedom of choice. These are the words that we use internally to talk about how we engage in the market. And that freedom of choice, that's why we built Agora. That is the platform that starts to centralize the data, starts to create the communication, that language of integration across all of these. And when it comes to AI, it's the same concept. How do we make an ecosystem that's open to connecting to other people's, infrastructure, other people's data, and integrating that into seamless workflows for our clients?
Yeah. I have a question in regard to like people in your position looking for open and connected. There's a lot of people that don't have that 5 decades as a company experience, right? They're coming into the market for the first time. They're wanting to be part of this industry. How do conferences like OpTech or conferences, where for those folks that are building things, learning, creating and, doing IT, like what should they be doing at these conferences? Who should they be talking to? How should they listen and learn?
I think they definitely need to be having a lot of conversations, right? Attend as many sessions as possible because if people have already done it, there's no reason why we can't learn from each other, right? And that's really a big premise at MRI. What I love about our open and connected approach. So definitely attending. They should have their questions, and the biggest thing I would say to there's no dumb questions. I know we all say that, right? But there's really not. And conferences are a great place to have those kind of conversations and get a different perspective. Because if you're working with one group of people all the time and you're experiencing one situation, you need to get a little bit more exposure to see what else is out there. And that's what conferences are so great about. You can get it in a couple of days, just walking around talking to people.
There's no dumb questions. You clearly haven't looked at my chat GPT history.
Present company excluded on that statement.
But
Who will win the Super Bowl this year?
might have helped me with my fantasy league.
Yeah.
But I agree with you 100%. So it's yes, going and figuring out what all of the vendors that are, here, and they obviously are trying to sell you something, right? Which is fine. That's why they're here. That's why we need them. But I think what you said is, talking to other people that are in the conference as well. I think that's super important. And it can just be like, hey, how are you thinking about AI in your organization? And you're going to learn something. How do you think about this particular issue? Or, what solutions do you use, to solve this particular problem? And I think those conversations create those connections where you can talk to your peers and start getting a different understanding of how somebody else would solve this problem.
Mm.
I have a question as to the naming of Agora, Ask Agora. Who got to name Ask Agora?
It
And
usually goes-
why?
It's usually the answer to those questions, usually our CEO, Pat.
I think it's a great name. I mean, Agora.
Well,
going
Agora
back
is
to-
based on going back to, exactly. It goes back to, the Agora was a marketplace in, ancient Greece where all the vendors came together and you socialized and you interacted and, you got the opportunity to, buy your wares from many different vendors, right? So Agora is based on that principle of being that centralized hub that allows, kind of business to flourish and allows innovation to flourish.
the trading and communication
Yeah.
of both physical and physical goods and then information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Information is huge.
And the
Yes.
community. So it's creating a digital community across everything, right? Your partners, all the products you're using, everything's coming together right there.
Yeah. And our society is used to asking something that starts with an A and ends with an A to query things.
Mm.
Hey, Alexa, right? We're used to the
Yeah.
blah, blah. So it's like it's already in our blood to ask
You're saying there
Agora.
might be
Yeah.
there might be something
No,
behind
it's
our madness.
who knows? But I do work for MRI, but I ask everybody this question. So it's a non-biased question, which is, what would you both collectively, individually tell people that they might have misconceptions, or that's something they don't know, or things that you run into often in the ecosystem of real estate, of technology, that you would want them to know about MRI?
Hmm. Well, I would want them to know that while we have been around for many years, right? Maybe a little longer than me. Um, we have been around for many years, but that doesn't mean that we're still. We're constantly innovating. We're constantly bringing different ideas together, and we really love to hear from our clients too. So we've gone on a lot of tours this year around feedback and just making sure that we remain relevant and that we keep kind of leaning into innovation. So I would say you can be around for quite a while. Again, case in point here. But it doesn't mean that you're not innovative, and it doesn't mean that you're not moving forward.
I think she said I'm old. I have been at MRI for a long time. I have been at MRI, as my daughter would say, since the 1900s.
That is old.
That is old. But I agree. Look, there's many ways, that businesses thrive. MRI fundamentally is a place of, believes in what I said, open and connected. It believes in the freedom to choose. I think, that brings its own set of, potential issues. But, the Agora platform at its heart is around creating that common data language, that applications use to talk. It's about creating, this global grid of APIs and, kind of events, an event hub that allows all of these things to talk seamlessly. So, I would say, come talk to us, learn what that's about, and understand that, yes, we have all of the components in the stack, and you can choose all of those components from us. We have an entire suite of applications, and we can work with you to bring those to bear. Or you might have something that you really, really like that works for your business. We're also going to bring that into the ecosystem. So Agora is really about, the freedom to choose what's right for your business. And we're going to partner with you to make that work.
That's great. I am curious what you think is a bigger transition in history. Moving from the paper apartment guide to the internet,
Uh-huh.
or do you think AI is going to be like the next corner?
Interesting question. And one I talked about today. You didn't know this, though, which is actually kind of amazing. But I didn't talk about that. I talked about the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
The same
Yeah.
concept. I think both of them, regardless of what you're talking about, anything that's, moved, humanity forward,
Mhm.
I think the impact is the same. So I talked about the Industrial Revolution today, where 90% of the world's population was in agriculture before the Industrial Revolution. After, it was less than 10%.
Mm-hmm.
But that took decades. It took a century for that to
Mhm.
actually happen.
Mhm.
I think AI is going to have a similar impact, but it's going to happen like that.
Mm.
So I think the big difference is not necessarily the outcome will be the same. There'll be a huge impact on all of us, but it's going to be measured in months and years, not decades.
Yeah.
I think we also, on a lot of technology and things that have come forward, right, we kind of know where it's going. And with AI, we're still learning. We don't know exactly where it's going. So I actually think it's going to have a significant impact fast, but I think the impact is going to be larger, and it's going to continue for quite a while as we keep learning.
Mhm.
Sure. I mean, I think one of the interesting things about AI at this point is, to your point, if you're an artist, you can now write code.
Yes.
And if you are great at writing code, you're now an artist. It is completely unlocking boundaries
Yeah.
for all of us, regardless of our background, our current knowledge, or where we want to go. So, and it sounds like, MRI is truly on the forefront of that.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
That's where we
Well,
intend to be.
yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here. We'll ask one silly question. I think I found one in my head.
Oh.
So we've been asking a couple folks this. It's since MRI calls himself the Pride. They have like a kind of a lion, I guess, character or champion kind of mascot. So you can't choose lion, but we would like to know what your spirit animal is. We'll tell you ours. What did we land on for
I was
you?
a honey badger.
A honey badger.
It's mine. That's what I
Are
was
you
going-
serious?
Yeah.
Oh, I could see.
Oh, I like this honey badger. That's-
Yeah.
Okay. Why a honey badger for you? I'm
So I'm tenacious. I'm going to get it done, and you're not going to stop
Okay,
me.
just like this guy. All right, I like it. So mine was a fox. That was my spirit animal. And what
A
would
fox,
you?
huh?
Yeah,
Because you're clever and
I-
sly.
I don't know. I'm hungry all the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm clever. Yeah, I'm clever.
Clever.
I'm clever. Sure, I'll take it.
I think I'd be like a hawk or a bald eagle or something.
Mm.
I just love the freedom of soaring and being high, kind of
Yeah.
high above. But I also like that, you can see the landscape. You can basically see what's ahead. So I would choose we'll go with bald eagle.
I like that. Majestic. There we go.
Oh, no one's ever called me majestic. I'm gonna let the wife know about that
We
one.
edit that part out.
I say, plus you can just shit on people, boy.
Okay, these are both great answers.
And done.
And that's a wrap.
This was
folks.
good. Thank you guys.